from, they tore it down, I rebuilt it. I give myself a task, you can bet your ass I fulfill it. Yeah, man, I'm talking about Willis, one of the
Shamadashin and the pressure.
And this is podcast 76?
76, pulling the
That's
thread.
probably the first time I got it right. 76, pulling the
Because you
thread.
get it wrong on purpose every time.
No, I don't.
Bullshit.
He releases them so weird.
So are we doing it's not even going to matter if we're doing a live. This will be heard after the fact. We're going to do a live reaction to the presidential debate Thursday, which is tomorrow. By the time you hear this, it'll be a week later.
Oh, God. The presidential debate. It's going to be fun. Exciting.
He's going to poop.
You think he's going to poop? I don't think he's going to poop.
No, I mean,
think they'll have
if it's the CIA operative in the mask.
You don't mind if I drink, do you? Because I brought booze. I'm going to drink.
Okay.
That's my new... It's my new reality.
Do you open a new bottle every time you... What happened to the other
I
bottles?
just got to drink.
You're going through a bottle of that a week. And he's like, no, motherfucker, I'm going through a bottle a day.
That's conservative. I mean, that's being conservative.
You just poured a whole glass of that. Let me taste that.
It's like Mad Men.
It's good rum.
I don't know about that, but...
It's good rum. It's Bumba.
It's Bumba.
Don Papa's better, but I can't find it.
That is good. It's full of sugar. It's like fucking Kool-Aid of alcohol.
No, it's not. There's no sugar in there.
All you gotta do is put a little tint in it, and it's all for you.
Yeah. Let's see. So the debate, you think it's not going to be him?
Oh, I don't.
Or do you think...
I don't think that it even matters if it's him.
I think... You know what would be awesome?
That motherfucker can't. He's like lobster claws, man. He doesn't know what to do. There's no fucking way that the actual Joe Biden could get up there. It's going to be a dude in a mask.
You know what would be awesome? If it was like a Scooby-Doo mystery reveal.
That would be awesome.
Where he just goes over and pulls the mask off and it's Obama.
I would have got away with it if it wasn't for you kids, you pesky kids.
That would be awesome if Trump just goes over there and pulls the mask off.
The new Scooby-Doo is like all super woke and shit. It's got like trans and shit in there. The better Scooby-Doo is the porn versions of it. Have you seen that? No. Oh, yeah. Who's the nerdy chick?
Velma.
Yeah, she's hot when she's drawn hot.
When she's drawn hot?
Yeah, when they take the sweater off of her.
Nice.
The skanky one, she's not as hot as the nerd one.
Look at you. Daphne. Is it Daphne? Yeah. Hey, speaking of TV shows that ran a long time, when's the last time you've been across the Jayville Bridge?
A couple days ago.
Off to the right, there is...
Heading towards you?
Yes.
Okay.
So off to the right...
The boat that's fucking crashed up there? That boat's been there over a year. We should go board it and see what's in it.
We should go do an episode of Gilligan's Island.
Man, you're going to get chewed up with fucking... we're going to release some fucking
we should go
thing from ticks over there.
Episode of Gilligan's Island with that boat. Because it is a Gilligan's Island boat that's over there.
Yeah, well, I think it's taking on water. Like I can't believe that they've left it there all that time. Because if one of us owned that boat, they'd be knocking on the door with fucking tickets every day.
I'm sure. I am sure. But yeah, we could do an episode of Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, that thing's been there a long time. Every time I see it, I'm like, we should go kayak out there and see what's on that boat.
Would you be the skipper or the professor?
Do I not have another choice? Isn't there not other guys on the boat on there?
Gilligan. But Gilligan's cooking food right now for sure. That is definitely
Gilligan.
Gilligan.
Or Gilligan's in West Virginia.
Yeah, he would make a good Gilligan.
Tyler.
Yeah, he'd make a really good Gilligan.
Yeah, Skylo's too tall to be Tyler. He couldn't even play him as a character. He'd be like his older brother.
No, that's the way that's supposed to be, right? That the character that plays you in the movie is supposed to be bigger and more handsome. And
yeah, I guess I'd have to go with Professor.
Yeah, I think you would be a good professor.
I think I'd have to go with Professor. So what's going on? What are you aware of right now?
What am I aware of?
Are we in World War III yet?
That nothing that NATO promises that's going to make a difference in Ukraine makes a difference.
Right. Well, I mean, Putin's in North Korea right now, or was yesterday. He's in Vietnam. Our press seems very angry about all that. Our CIA media.
All those to include Vietnam, are communist countries.
Mm-hmm.
So why would we be upset? What has changed outside the fact that Vietnam makes most of our junk now?
Well, Vietnam and China makes all of our shit. And even if we build it, the components come from fucking China.
Yeah, so I don't understand why they would be mad, except for the fact that
And then you have people in the United States trying to stand up industry, and the government seems to make it super difficult for those dudes. Almost like it's all bullshit. Like they're not interested in standing up manufacturing in the United States.
They are interested in standing up manufacturing in the United States so they can tax it.
Well, they print all the money.
Because they're stealing all that money anyway.
They print all the money to inflate everything, to collapse the economy. They graft off of all that money that they create, and then they buy assets. And then when they usher in the new currency, they will then convert those assets into new currency and live high on the hog.
Will they be Hillary dollars?
Well, it's going to be central bank digital currency. They already have it there. It was supposed to have launched like last June.
Yeah, it's not working out very well.
Is it not, or they weren't able to execute it?
It's not working out very well. Here's the problem with corruption, right? The problem with corruption at that level, even the people who are writing the laws, because they are so corrupt, they still want the idea of cash. Because cash is anonymous,
right? Because they don't want to have to pay the taxes on it.
It's not just that. It's just when you hire your gay construction lover to come over and hit your husband with a hammer, you want to make that payment in cash. You don't want to do that in Bitcoin.
Yeah, where is that dude?
You don't want to do it in Bitcoin. Oh, he's a millionaire somewhere.
You think so? He's not in custody.
No, they paid his ass off. That's why you don't hear him.
Maybe so.
Anyway, so yeah, even the corrupt people want cash.
What's going on with that Obama investigation?
Which one? The one where he murdered his chef?
Yeah.
There's no investigation.
Nothing.
No, they covered it up.
I heard that Trump has just done his pick for vice president. Have we heard who that is?
I don't know.
Maybe they're going to announce it
They might
on Thursday.
Yeah, I don't know who he's going to pick, but whoever he's going to pick, it's not going to be mainstream. It's not going to be the person you think he's going to pick. He always picks somebody that's off the beaten path.
There's some dude that they were talking about that said is going to be really good for the United States. I'd never heard of the dude, whoever it was.
Oh, for vice president?
Mm-hmm.
If I liked Haley until she fell off the rails.
Really?
Yeah, because it was an opportunity. It was an opportunity for the Republican Party to create a first.
What, a woman?
Female president, yeah. Because they're going to kill Trump.
Nah, they're going to kill Trump.
Oh, yeah, they're going to kill his ass.
How about Assange? Did you see all the Assange stuff?
Letting him out? But he had to... everybody is like, woo-woo! We're turning a corner. They let us... He had to plead guilty to felonies. Mm-hmm. There's no reason why he should have had to plead guilty to felonies. Laws were being broken. Laws were being broken, and the individuals who were breaking those laws faced no penalties whatsoever.
And still
only the guy who was like, "Hey,
these guys are fucking children.
They're fucking war criminals." That's the only person who got in trouble. So no, we're not turning a corner. They're just tired of holding his ass. That's all. I hope some billionaire, Musk or. Who's the other guy with the penis spaceships?
Bezos.
Bezos is the better candidate, I think, than Musk. I hope Bezos snatches Assange up and puts him in some sort of secret bunker with unlimited access to computers and just lets him go bananas stealing state secrets.
Bezos isn't going to be part of that. Elon Musk would.
I don't think Musk would. I don't think he would do that.
Yeah, I couldn't see Bezos doing it.
He's bald. He's got a spaceship.
It looks like a penis.
He is
probably has a hairless cat.
Yeah, he is the perfect Bond.
Dr. Evil.
Yeah, he's Dr. Evil. He's the perfect Bond villain. So, come on, Bezos, step up to the plate. Step up to the plate. It's what the country needs is a good Bond villain, especially if you're going to be anti-U.S. government. Because they are all a shit show.
So Trump was talking about pardoning him. And then all of a sudden the Biden administration said, hey, we're going to let this guy go on time served. So he did have a private jet flight, which was $500,000 is what the ticket on that thing was. Some rich dude paid that for him so that he did not have to land, refuel, or enter any U.S. territory at the time until the trial. So wherever he left from to get to the destination, That flight was supposed to have been $500,000.
It's substantially. It is. The time has passed substantially that it no longer even meets the zeitgeist.
What happened?
Right? So 10 years ago, when they were really trying to find out who he was, if we go back 10 years, then that plane would have been crewed by CIA operatives and Assange would have disappeared.
So
But it's all fucking done
the
now.
Chelsea Manning thing is interesting because she's the one that actually put the information out there. Assange got the information, passed it to him.
Well, Assange used a bunch of channels for different things, but Chelsea Manning actually was accessing classified information.
And where is she currently?
Leavenworth, I think.
Oh,
Or
she's
no, wait. I think Chelsea's been released. I think. I feel like she is on the street somewhere.
Now she started life as a dude, right?
Yes.
Had full transition
In prison.
in prison.
In prison, yeah.
Fucking wild.
Federal government paid for it. Your tax dollars at
Did you see they just had a
at use.
pedophile? They just had a pedophile who was touching babies inappropriately while changing their diapers.
Okay.
And they said, we are not going to give him custody because he would not be able to appropriately get his estrogen while in custody. So they did not give him any actual custody in prison. This was in one of the United States. This was I saw this just yesterday, day before. I remember hearing about it maybe 6 weeks ago.
It's a mad, mad world.
It's pretty fucking wild.
But that's the reason why people get killed.
Well, they're not killing them at a rate.
I know, but again, remember, I always say it's about being uncomfortable, right? And there's a certain level of things that are happening within the judicial system that are making people uncomfortable. So imagine if you were a child that had been abused, and you deal with that trauma every day, and then this dude becomes the catalyst that makes you go, I'm going to kill that motherfucker.
Right.
Well,
Where
you get
are
what you
those
get.
guys? Because it used to be the father.
Yeah.
We celebrate every Father's Day, especially the last few years. These guys where they're and the mom in court, right? The mom's daughter is raped and killed, and she stands up in court and smokes that motherfucker in court. How'd she get the gun in court? That's an interesting one. Or they're transporting, the marshals are transporting this dude through the airport, and he's on the phone, and he turns around and smokes
Shoots
that
me.
motherfucker, right?
Most of those,
That's our Father's Day version of Killdozer.
but again, most of those people that are celebrated for that, right? When you think about how'd she get the gun in court, or the dude that smokes the dude at the airport, it's a what do you call it? It's a reminiscent of a time gone by, meaning.
That's true. It does look like
But
VHS tape.
It's a reminiscent of a time gone by. So it was back when you could carry a gun in the airport. It was back when you could get a gun into court.
But you could still do that in an airport.
No. Well, it depends on where you're at in the airport, right?
Yeah, I guess it can't
It's-
be beyond. Yeah.
Yeah, so it depends on where you're at in the airport. But again, if you've ever watched any Magnum PI, Magnum gets on a plane with a 1911. It just depends on, there are a level of security that we have now because of those type of things that have happened in the past. I was just in New Zealand.
Could you have got a gun in the airport?
I
there?
was just in New Zealand, and an interesting thing happened. We had to take a flight from Christchurch to Auckland, and that was on a prop plane. It was not on we weren't in a jet, and so we walked right into the airport, right over to our gate, walked right on the tarmac, got right on the plane, and flew away. And Chris is like losing his shit. Chris is like, "What the? We didn't go through any security? This is crazy. This is baffling." And I don't know if it's that way everywhere in Europe, or maybe it's the same way in Australia. But he did a little research and found out that prop planes don't get the same security measures that a jet does.
Because they can't be hijacked. They don't have the range. Is that?
They can be hijacked. My
But
assumption
you're not
is,
going to go crash them into buildings.
my assumption is it's because there's not a fuel load on there necessary to do any serious damage.
Well, the fuel load on those
It would
planes
sucks
doesn't.
for all those passengers on there.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody knows the fuel load on those planes doesn't drop skyscrapers, anyways.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, I mean, the reality is, come on, New Zealand, you don't have to have any security. Like New Zealand is like, it is the peaceful paradise that people wish they could, where they wish they could live. I feel like.
Is Australia like that?
Australia's still a little more rough and tumble. Like
Only because of the imports.
But I'm just saying, Australia's a little more.
It's not going to
rough
be
and
a
tumble.
person.
No,
it's
I
not
feel
going to
like
be a traditional Aussie.
No, a traditional Aussie. I feel like a traditional Aussie male is. Don't take this wrong, guys. He's ready for a fight all the time.
That's what I'm.
Like,
yeah,
it's fisticuffs. It's time to go to fisticuffs.
right. But
just
he's
for
not.
fun.
He's not going to walk in and shoot you in a movie theater or
No,
stab you.
not like that. But again,
If there's
that's why I say it's a little more
any
rough
of the
and tumble.
crime like that happening in Australia or any of those countries, it ain't the indigenous peoples. It's not the people that have been there for the
You
last
mean
100 years.
the Aborigines, John?
No, I don't mean the Aborigines.
Because I am sure that the Aborigines don't shoot anyone up.
I mean those imports that they've let into the country.
Well, it was actually
the same type of person burning down Notre Dame.
Actually, the first major was it the first? Might have been the second.
Talking about the big shooting they had
in New Zealand was was Christchurch, and that was a local. That was your normal, regular, I don't want to say regular dude, but that was a local who was going after Muslims.
Really?
Yeah. We were staying just down the street from the church where it happened.
Think that was some MK Ultra shit, or just a dude that was fed up?
Probably just a dude that was fed up. That's the problem with pushing the line. Like when you have the Democratic Party, which is not really the Democratic Party anymore. They're a
communist party.
Woke institution. You have this. You're pushing social boundaries, right? You're pushing these social boundaries further and further to where, touching little kids is now appropriate in the Democratic Party. You're pushing these social boundaries. The problem with that is, eventually someone is going to fucking break, and when they do, there's really no discerning about moral value or good versus evil. It's just, I'm going to kill everybody because everybody is fucked up. That is the problem with the agenda that they are pushing. That eventually there's going to be a culling. Eventually there's going to be a point where the majority of people are going to be fed up with all this bullshit, and they are going to fucking rise up against it. And it tends to get out of hand. And then a good example would be like the French Revolution, where they just started cutting everybody's heads off. And then you're like,
whose heads did they start with?
They started with the emperors. They started with the aristocrats. But it eventually worked its way into everybody, right? It's like, we're going to round you up because we didn't like what you said. We're going to round you up because we don't like the way you look. We're going to round you up. We're just cutting everybody's heads off until the crowd gets the satisfaction it needs to say, all right, we're done cutting people's heads off. Let's reestablish the government. Like, well, a lot of people don't know that, when that revolution was going, when they were cutting everybody's heads off, Bonaparte was a part of that. But Bonaparte was a part of the established government. He was actually worried that they were going to cut his fucking head off.
How many people's heads did they cut off?
I don't know. It was a lot, though. It was a lot. They were running the guillotines 24 hours a day.
So anytime you watch anything on Cairo, Illinois, right, you always hear that the town is in the condition it's in because of racism. Every fucking video out there is racism. It's because of racism. It's because of racism.
Industry dies.
Yeah. But so the racism thing, but they all stop short. A few of them carry all the way through the story. But the story is black dude supposedly raped white lady. They had him in custody in the jail. All the white hats, I think they called them white hats. They weren't called Ku Klux Klan, but it was kind of like their version or whatever.
You know what year it was?
1960s.
Okay, that's why.
So
Because they'd already been hit by the feds.
Yeah, they'd been hit by the feds a few times.
Yeah, so
they had some racial things happen in that town in the past. But in, I believe it's the 60s, they storm the police station and pull this dude out, and they lynch him. Well, the crowd hadn't had enough. So they go in, and the only jail cell they could get open was a white guy, and they lynched him. So, yeah, you always hear about this lynching that happened, and it's because of racism. They killed a fucking white dude the same fucking night.
That's the problem with the arousing the crowd.
Yeah, it's mob mentality. It's the bloodthirstiness.
It's also the reason why we stopped. It is also the reason why we stopped public executions in the United States.
Well, they're coming back.
Because they were getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and more people were it's the bread and circus, really. More people
it's
were
like
wanting
Running
to see
Man.
the executions.
It's like the TV. It's like the movie Running Man, where it was actually it was a TV series that they were making out of the executions.
Outside of I harp on this a lot. Outside of the comfortability of what society has brought us, right? Creating a society has created comfort, and so we're comfortable in how we live, and we're comfortable in the things that we do. But base human beings, we still live in the motherfucking cave. We all still live in the cave. You can pretend. You can create a level of comfort where you can pretend that you don't live in a cave, where you can pretend like you are not a fucking ruthless killing machine. But that's just pretend. The reality is there is, no matter who you are in this world, there is a level of discomfort that can be put on you that will bring that caveman fucking out. It might be too late. You might be at a point where you've, sacrificed, but then, sometimes a lot of sheep have to be killed before the wolves can come out. But the reality is we are all just a little bit of discomfort away from total chaos. It's just interesting to see what it takes for people to step off that ledge, where they are at in their life, and at what point where they feel like it doesn't matter. We have a lot of that in this country that amounts to suicide, but that's fortunate for us, because if it didn't amount to suicide, it could manifest itself into something completely more dangerous.
Well, it's the blow-off valve, but maybe more dangerous. Nothing's going to change until there is more dangerous.
Well, that's a
nothing's going to change from the vote.
That's a little
They're
bit
just
true.
going to keep chipping away, and you and I are going to be dead, and then our kids are going to be having the same conversations that we had, and their kids, their next generation is going to have they're not even going to be able to own any firearms.
I don't mean to sound nihilist, but I don't care what happens after I'm gone. Right? I'm gone. And there's nothing I can do. All I can attempt to do is try and help influence people now to the point where they see that there are moral standards that you can have. There are rights and wrongs. And there's a point where you have to step out of your comfort zone to defend those things that are important.
And nobody's hit that yet?
What do you mean?
Where are those men?
Oh, I don't know. They're out there. They're out there watching. They're at the shows telling us we need to keep doing this podcast. I mean, they're out there. And the reality is, when the tipping point, when the Concord happens, and this federal government executes a bunch of American citizens, that's when people will stand up.
How do you see that happening?
Could be a lot of things. Could be a suspension of the next election due to fucking war with Russia. That could be the tipping point. People could protest and march on Washington D.C., and then the hand-picked National Guard unit that is currently protecting them could fuck up and actually shoot a bunch of unarmed civilians, and then that would be a problem. It would be I dare say that would be a problem for whatever person is in power, and it would definitely be a problem for those National Guard troops. Because unlike the days of past, like when we used MacArthur to route the bonus marchers and run those soldiers out of Washington, D.C. and kill a bunch of them.
And their wives.
We're a society, we are way more armed than we have ever been. Like, we're way more armed than we've ever been. We are way more trained than we ever have been. And so for the government to make a decision that the people are the enemy of the government is It's not going to go the way they think it is. You can, Joe Biden can be like, we got F-16s. What the fuck are you going to do with an F-16? What are you going to do with it? Really? There's nothing you can do with an F-16 except bomb the infrastructure that you are trying to hold on to anyways. So an F-16 doesn't do you a bit of good. None of that shit does you any good. And the other problem with that is you're under the assumption that F-16 pilot is going to get in that plane and kill American citizens. He took an oath. He took an oath. If the President of the United States orders any U.S. service members to kill American citizens, doesn't matter what the cause, you are in violation of the Constitution.
They don't have to use an F-16. They'll use that fucking woke-ass little drone pilot out of fucking Colorado. Who will more than happy...
Maybe.
All these fucking gas explosions, some of those are not gas explosions. Some of those pilots have already drone-struck people in the United States.
Maybe he will, but maybe that grizzly old Master Sergeant, maybe that grizzly old Air Force Master Sergeant who's been sitting in there watching these young kids bomb targets all over Afghanistan, maybe he's going to be the one to stand up and end that program. Maybe. I mean, that's the issue. The issue is you don't know. For a good example would be what happened in Egypt. Egypt had
the color revolution.
A very comparable, I don't want to say competent because there's really no Middle Eastern country that has a competent military. But they had a pretty good military.
We trained them. The CIA was all up in there.
Again, we don't really train these militaries, John. The Iraqi army still can't do jumping jacks. We don't really train these armies, but they had a decent military, a military that was definitely capable of putting down any uprising. And when the president needed the military to do what they needed them to do, the Egyptian army just did nothing. And that is how that fucking president ended up in jail and fucking that whole thing ended. Same scenario could happen here. Are you going to have units that will violate the Constitution of the United States and execute the orders of a unconstitutional president? Probably.
Yeah, it'd be all the Homeland Security units.
Probably. You probably will have units that will execute those orders. But competent military authority will recognize what is happening and they will put a stop to that. It's like the reality of, we think about the president and that Navy guy who follows him around with the football. All the nuclear launch codes. The president, the reality is if the military is not behind launching nuclear weapons, the president can't do it. He just can't do it. Yeah, he's got the codes and he's got a Navy guy following him around. But if I guarantee you that dude, if he doesn't get the wink from the fucking rest of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he's not opening that fucking case for the president. Doesn't matter what. If Joe Biden right now was like, fuck it, we're going to nuke Russia. Like, just say he went off the rails. I guarantee you that fucking Navy guy would be like, no, this isn't even real. This is a fucking empty case, dude. You can't do any of this shit. You have to have the wink from the Department of Defense. And so, I know everybody's going to be like, no, the president can do whatever the fuck he wants. No, he can't. The president can't do whatever the fuck he wants. You had a president that wanted to pull all forces out of Afghanistan and Iraq, and guess what the Department of Defense said? You can't do that, President. So he doesn't have the power that everybody thinks he does, especially when we're talking about nuclear war. It sounds cool that you got this dude following around, but all that is posturing. That's posturing so that the Russians think we will do it. Because that's what the Cold War was. The Cold War was totally about, we think they might do it.
Yeah.
You think we're going to do it.
That's where mutually assured
destruction comes in. So
what's up with all those? What's up with the submarines and the ships in Cuba? Because that's all fucking dissipated like a fart in the wind.
That's because the reason why it's dissipated the fart in the wind and you don't hear news media talking about it is because it's the failed policies of Joe Biden. The failed policies. Kennedy kept nuclear weapons out of fucking Cuba. This piece of shit, Joe Biden, he can't keep them out of fucking Cuba. He's allowing nuclear weapons to go just cruise right into fucking Cuba and hang out. That's a failed policy. It's a fucking president, and it's not really a president, because again, I will say this again. I don't hold any of this against Joe Biden.
No, it's not even the same. Joe Biden has no idea what's going on.
Joe Biden has Alzheimer's and dementia. He doesn't know where he's at. It is the administration that is pulling all those, like if you take a look at Joe Biden right now.
Cut his statins, up his creatine.
Well, what I'm saying is, if you take a look at Joe Biden right now, and then you take a look at Joe Biden 5 years ago, none of the policies match up.
Correct. And I mean, his ears have grown to the side of his head.
Well, I'm just saying, none of the policies match up. So the political machine that was Joe Biden is completely different. And that is because wokeism has taken over the Democratic Party, and they are pulling his fucking strings. Fucking Joe don't know where he's at.
No.
He don't know where he's at. I guarantee you that Navy guy who's following him around with the football, I guarantee that fucking, if he opens it, some fucking mail and some bullshit's going to fall.
It's a Nerf ball that you can squeeze. Do we ever see that on camera? Do you ever see the guy with the football? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I guess I'd have to have paid.
Yeah, he follows him around all the time. It's usually Navy guy.
Do you think he's got some toilet paper and diapers with him?
I don't know if it ever changes hands, where maybe sometimes it's an Army guy or an Air Force guy or whatever, but it's usually a Navy guy that's carrying the football around. I'm sure that there is some sort of,
so have you seen Russia apparently came out, and I only know this because the White House actually addressed this last night.
The White House, goodness. They put out all kinds of good news.
Yeah, they had some stuff in Russia, of course, and they're giving you the subtitles. It's a female talking, says the United States has to prepare to pay for this because these rockets and these missiles that have been landing inside of Russia, apparently they killed 120 people on a beach in Russia, and that was arms that we gave to Ukraine, and missiles or rockets were used. What's the difference between a rocket and a missile? Do you know?
The difference of rocket and missile's trajectory. A missile goes up, a rocket goes straight.
Got it. Okay,
so rocket is a straight fire. So,
so distance
I know
also.
Hey guys, I know there's like a technical term for it, but it's distance. A missile will go a lot further than a rocket.
So is a mortar a rocket?
No, a mortar is a mortar. A rocket is a more, even though V2 was a rocket, it's more line of sight. So a missile goes up, its trajectory is higher, so it can go further. A rocket is flying based off of its fuel.
Is a potato gun a federal offense, or was that just a California thing?
I think it's just a California thing, because federally you can load anything from the front. So you can have if you let's say you had a Civil War mortar, you can have it because it was loaded from the front. You want a Civil War cannon, you can have it because it's loaded from the front. Now, a Civil War cannon, if you get the older Civil War cannons, they were rifled, and they will shoot a projectile up to 2 miles, which, fuck, that's far, man. If you're thinking about something that somebody has in their backyard, they can shoot a projectile accurately to 2 miles. Yeah, that's pretty badass.
We just wanted to launch rubber dicks from here to the range when James had it.
We could have done that.
But the potential to harm somebody was very high.
Yeah, because some of those rubber dicks are pretty heavy.
Yeah, I mean, even the ones Nick had, Dakota had.
I'm sure there's still some in the woods over here.
We find them occasionally.
Yeah, sure.
When we brush hog over there, you still find rubber wieners.
You know what would work good for throwing rubber dicks at the range? A trebuchet.
That's what we were going to use.
Yeah, trebuchet would have been the best way to do it.
But you look at like the bowling ball launchers and shit, and the bowling ball trebuchet is like, dude, it'll crush a whole fucking car.
Yeah, no, it'd have been raining men over there, but it'd have been funny as shit. The first volley of rubber dicks hitting the range, as long as nobody got hit. Because again, if you got hit with it would kill you. There's some dongs that would take you down to the ground. I don't know if it would kill you.
I want one of those 4-foot rubber dicks. They're like $700 though. I don't want it bad enough to spend.
There's a place in place in San Diego that I went into, and they had one that was like,
yeah, they have them on Amazon.
Yeah, like
if anybody wants to send me a rubber dick, I'd love to have it. I'll put it right at the front door.
It was like this big. It was huge.
I'll take a picture with it every night and send it to you.
It was huge, and
we'll put different clothes on it every week.
The guy was in. There was a dude in there, and I'm like, "Hey, man, I really need to take a picture of this. And he's like, you can't take any pictures in here. I'm like, man, my boss would love it. He's like, you really can't take any pictures in here.
When was this?
This is a couple years ago. It was probably 5 years ago.
Who were you going to send it to?
You.
Oh.
Because it was huge. Is
it like a strip club or a sex toy shop?
It was a sex toy shop. It was huge. It was the biggest one I've ever seen.
How can a motherfucker say you can't take pictures in here? Everybody has a fucking camera.
He's like, you can't take pictures in here. And then I'm like, I looked at him, I go, it's for my boss. He'd really love it. He goes, go ahead and take a picture of it. I don't know if I must not have sent it to you.
I didn't get it because I would still have it. How much was it?
Oh, I didn't even ask because it was a display thing. It wasn't like this is for sale. I was just like, that is crazy.
Anytime you go to an adult bookstore, sex toy shop, or what, I don't even know why they call them adult bookstores. They haven't have books in them anymore.
I don't know.
They always have those glass cases. If
you have to go to a 7-Eleven that is no longer a 7-Eleven that's owned by some guys.
So they're not putting they're not putting the paper in front, and they're also selling 10-cent ICs to kids.
Yeah, you have to go to a 7-Eleven that's not really a 7-Eleven and owned by some guys that have very broken English, and then they'll still have that wooden magazine rack that has paper over.
Do you remember going to grocery stores and they had porn magazines at grocery stores? Like Walmart even had porn magazines. They just had like the cardboard across but you could still sneak a look.
Yeah, cardboard across. That's so hilarious. It's crazy. Anyways.
When you go in any of those stores and you see they have all the sex toys and stuff, but when you see the glass cabinet that's locked, go look at the glass cabinet, find the prices on those. They do like glass sex toys.
Yeah.
Dude, some of that shit's like thousands of dollars. Brass sex toys and copper plated and gold plated and shit, dude. Some of that stuff is thousands of dollars. I would assume.
It's a $1 billion industry, so
it's the largest industry. Actually, the sex industry is larger. Sex, religion, and death are the three top industries.
Yeah, it's a big industry.
But those, I would assume, it's the same like with. I guess it's not crack pipes. Crackheads aren't smoking out of expensive glass, but like weed dudes, I would assume.
That's
some of that glass. It's the same companies making the weed pipes are probably making.
I had a lieutenant. So we went to Bali, and I had this lieutenant.
Is this the same guy that brought in the shirts?
Yeah, I had a lieutenant who was big on Wall Street before he joined the Marine Corps. And so we went to Bali, he's looking at all the shit that they had for sale. And he's like, I can make a killing. I'm going to buy a shipping container. You want to get in on it? And I'm like, nah, I'm good.
Whatever.
I'm not buying a shipping container of fucking Bali Hawaiian shirts, right? And he bought a shipping container.
Do you remember all the cool carved wood animals at the gun shows? Those all came from Bali too.
He bought this shipping container.
And most your shit from Egypt, all your Egypt trade, like the cats and the sphinxes and all the cool shit. Like some of that stuff I have upstairs that a friend of mine from Saudi Arabia sent it. It's from Bali.
Yeah,
it says
he
Bali
bought
on
that shipping container full of fucking trinkets from Bali. And it actually sat in customs for a long fucking time.
So that's actually a whole thing too. When you bring stuff in through customs, you can pay insurance on it. So if customs seizes it, the insurance actually pay. It's like gambling, man.
Yeah.
It's like being a farmer.
His thing was, and I'm like, oh shit. So he goes, I tripled my money. And I'm like, you tripled your money? He's like, yeah, I tripled my money on my initial investment. And I probably could have got more, but I bought the wrong shit. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, I bought shirts and I bought everything, but I bought a bunch of, what would you call them? Weed pipes?
Yeah.
I mean, he's like, I bought a bunch of weed pipes.
Are they bongs?
I guess bongs, yeah, kind of. Not necessarily bongs, but the little ones and shit.
It's
all
a
made of
trip.
glass.
So do you remember, like, especially Hill Street, right before it was South Coast Highway?
Yeah.
Back in the day, the main drag where our shop was.
When prostitutes still walk the street.
Yeah, there was prostitutes. Yeah, they used to hang out in the shop. But they always had those.
Those were good girls, John. Stop it.
They were well educated.
They were good girls.
But they always had those. They called them head shops back then, right?
Yeah,
Smoke shops.
Yeah,
but all they sold was glassware, glass pipes. But if a cop stopped you with that, that's drug paraphernalia, and then they would arrest you for having the pipe that you could legally go buy. Yeah. You just couldn't have possess. It was fucking bizarre, man.
That was the crazy thing. That's how he made. He's like, he goes, I brought those pipes in, and I didn't think I didn't think they were really worth as much as they were worth, but when he started going to head shops, man, they just fucking ate that shit
Bought them up,
Bought 'em
yeah.
up, yeah.
And now that shit's like every fucking vape store. And I only know this, like I've only been in a couple of these stores, but there's one right next door to a sushi place we go to. And I was looking I needed some stuff for a photo for our cigar case, our zippered cigar case that we make. I wanted a decent lighter and a cigar cutter. So I walked in a few of these shops thinking they would have them, and some of them did.
Yeah.
But dude, these shops are fucking stuffed full, like hookahs. Yeah. I mean, their shit, I'm like, what is this? Like, I have no idea about that culture. But, dude, they are fucking making a killing.
Well, weed is a...
this ain't even just weed. Like, they're selling...
It's an interesting topic for California. I'll use California example.
We have some clients that are, like, big-time weed guys.
But, like, California, I'll use an example. California legislated... Basically, what happened was... You had all these people talking about medical marijuana, the medicinal purposes of medical marijuana. My medicine. And so what happened was California started legalizing weed for medical purposes. So you could go, there was these fucking, you could go to the alley and get a script from a backdoor doctor that says, oh, my back hurts. I need to get
buying
weed.
meds in Mexico.
Right. Well, once medical marijuana became normal in California legalized all marijuana.
So they could tax it.
Well, what ended up happening is marijuana in California became boutique, and I'm sure it's happening everywhere. Everywhere, like Colorado, any place that has had medical marijuana for a long time.
You see it in Vegas everywhere.
Yeah, it's become boutique, and so individuals who are buying marijuana in California for real medical reasons. Like, let's say you had cancer and you were buying fucking marijuana so you could deal with the pain. You can't afford marijuana in California anymore because all the marijuana in California has become boutique. Like, literally, I have a friend who partakes in the industry out there in California. And the last time he was at his place, he goes there quite a bit. He gets VIP treatment. They're like, hey, we got these fucking 24 karat gold fucking what the fuck is joints? We got these 24 karat gold joints.
Yeah, it's like they put gold on your sushi and shit. You're buying expensive shit.
You want to get these.
You're literally pooping it out.
Right? You want to get these. These are legit. And he's like, no, I don't want to get that shit. I'm gonna just get this stuff. Everything's vape pens, right?
Give me all the shit without the gold on it.
Everything's vape pens. And so he's going out to the car, and the guy's like, and then he's like, how is it? Is it any good? And his little dude is like, oh, we don't know. We're not at that level. We can't. And so he ended up buying a bunch,
hooking his boy
up,
That's
so
cool.
he could have it. Right.
That's cool.
But it's become
he will get treatment for the rest of his life now.
But it's become so boutique that if you were struggling, if you were somebody who was struggling with a real medical problem, you actually have to get your medical marijuana from another state because it's too expensive in California.
So you can drive across the border into Indiana here and buy it. We had a guy that worked for us.
Yeah, it's starting to come in. Well, something that's happened just recently that is going to change, I think, the status of marijuana everywhere. And my boy, don't stop growing corn. Keep growing corn. Don't change the marijuana.
Yeah, our friend said that as soon as they legalize it.
Yeah, is the status. Something that's going to change the status is they just took marijuana off
Schedule 3.
Schedule 3. So it's no longer.
Not heard.
Yeah,
that.
It's no longer Schedule 3.
Never should have fucking been Schedule 3.
Yeah, it never should have been.
And
it was completely. The reality is, here's the thing. The reality is, it was 100%. Again, you ain't gonna like this, motherfuckers, but it was 100% the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
who made it a Schedule 3 drug.
Yes,
because they were going after a certain demographic.
Also, the beer, the alcohol fucking companies, and now you have alcohol that has weed in it, and you have energy drinks that have weed in it. So, have you ever been around somebody who uses weed through a vape pen? Mm-hmm. Does it smell like weed?
No,
it doesn't have any burning smell.
No, a vape pen has its own. It has its own
because they decarb it. I think they have to. It goes into like a flour state or something. They like actually grind it into flour. You bake it, which decarbs it, which release because they were able to take They had some Tennessee legal weed, and you could buy it in a flower state, right?
Yeah.
You would decarb it and then put it into a tincture, which would
Tincture.
you had to do a bunch of fucking witchcraft bullshit to
Witchcraft.
get the medicinal effects out of it, right? And they caught on to this, and they went around and raided like 100 fucking of these shops within one day in Tennessee. They hit like Clarksville and Nashville and all these places. And there was this big gray area. They had a lot of dudes in custody for selling something that yesterday was legal to sell. But I think you're going to see a lot of problems with these vape pens in the near future. I think
it's actually.
I wonder if it's actually safer to smoke marijuana than to use it through a vape pen.
So it's actually okay. It's weird. So if you are smoking a vape pen not marijuana, so you're trying to get tobacco in a vape pen, you're smoking whatever, right?
So we're after the THC or we're after the nicotine.
If you're smoking a vape pen for that particular reason in the nicotine, you can smell the shit. You can smell it when the dudes are smoking it. And the reality is, not only can you smell it, but all those videos where you see dudes doing the choo-choo train and all that shit with the fucking vape
Yeah,
pen,
it's because they made it do that.
that is usually always tobacco. On the marijuana side of the house, in the vape pens, you don't notice it. Outside of the fact when you see somebody go, that's it. Like you don't notice the smoke. There's no additional smell. There's nothing.
We have a kid that works for us that uses a vape pen, and once he got comfortable, that vape pen started coming out. And like literally, he can't go 5 minutes without hitting that thing.
The problem is the problem for the marijuana crowd. They don't.
So this is nicotine.
Nicotine or even the marijuana crowd is what they don't want to admit that it's an addictive substance, right? They don't want to say that it's an addictive substance, so they need this substance to function. As
an employer, when I have a dude who smokes weed and he comes in, I know that the performance is going to be fucked up. Mm-hmm. We have. I just literally had this conversation.
It's not. That's the thing about weed. No matter what anybody says,
it's not performance enhancer.
It's not an enhancer. It's not cocaine. Okay, right. It's weed. It's not an enhancer.
I had a conversation. I've got a dude working for me. Good dude. Yeah. I like him. And I said yesterday, hey, I can't employ you any longer. And he kind of looked. I go, look, your job starts at 8 o'clock, not 9 o'clock. You can't come in here smoking weed. Everything you have cut for the last fucking 2 weeks has had literally the wrong shit. Like, I got 12 batches of work yesterday that I sat down and sewed, and instead of loop Velcro, he'd cut everything hook Velcro in all of my batches. And the girls are saying the same thing. And I'm like, you are not doing the work. I need you to go back. I go, do you want to just take the rest of the week off, and then we can, you can decide what you want to do. And you know me. I'm like, hey, you don't fucking work here anymore. Get your shit, get the fuck out of here. That's not what I want to do with this dude. I am not looking to punish him or terminate him. I am looking to correct the issue.
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you something you guys don't know. John pretends to be a hard ass, and if you fuck up enough, he will fire you. But he's a softy at heart. I guarantee you right now, there is at least 4 people in that shop right now who have been fired. Probably
no.
Probably 6 times.
Nope, they're all gone. I actually just fired a chick. She actually fired herself. She came in fucking the weed thing. The conversation on Monday was, hey, why don't we just work you till noon and you just be you work 8 to 8.
You see what I'm saying, Softy? What? Hey, work till noon and then you go home and smoke your weed.
Because it is about accomplishing the mission.
Yeah, it's always about accomplishing the mission. You have to.
And if you come in after lunch at noon and you reek of weed, I walk in my building, my whole fucking like Brandl's walked in. He's like, dude,
smoking weed.
What the fuck is going on in here?
A vape pen.
Like people I don't even know, right? She has a minivan, goes next door, and then comes back with the sliding doors open on the minivan because they're trying to air it out. And I go, you come back here, everything you sew after noon is fucked up. All this work that we're redoing is all you. Now, I said, I have you clock out. You spend 2 hours a day fixing shit and resewing shit that you fucked up. So you're already working only part-time. I go, why don't you just go home at noon? And then she just fucking took off and never came back. She of course, she was right on time to get her check on Friday. And she's like, hey, sorry, you know, I took off the way I did. And I'm like, no, that's what needed to happen. That's you. I hope that you're at peace wherever you are, but you do not have a place in my company. Now that with the other dude, I'm like, you are not doing the work. You worked here for a week, and then we determined what your pay was going to be. And I started you at a rate higher than what I ever would have started you at because of the work you did the first week. You have not done, and you have declined, and here we are 10 weeks later, and you're not doing, you're fucking performing 10% of what you did. I need you to not work here, or to, and his answer was Roger that, and fucking do like a light switch. It just took the conversation. I really expected, you know, a storm off or, you know, whatever. But at the same time, anything that you got from this relationship when you come to work here, when that relationship gets severed, all those strings unravel also. Any chain that you had, any introduction that you had, that all unravels also.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I believe that John Willis, as hard as he pretends to be, has this big ass fucking heart. And if you come back, like we'll use Weed Girl as an example.
People have come back.
If she comes back,
yes,
and she's like, "Look, I fucked up. I really want to work here. I need this job. I'm going to give you 110%."
Yes.
That John Willis will be like, "Go get on the machine and fucking sew."
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that, you know,
absolutely.
Again, the biggest thing about, here's the thing that you may or may not know. The biggest thing about managing people. So the only time in the Marine Corps, we'll give you an example. The only time in the Marine Corps where you really manage people is at the platoon level. That's the only time. So
correct. The people that immediately affect your mission.
Right. When you are a company gunny.
Unfortunately for me as a business owner, I am working hand in hand.
No, you are a platoon sergeant. You shouldn't be. You should be a sergeant major, but you are a platoon sergeant. So when you are, and I'll just break this down. When you are a company gunny, you are not relying on lance corporals and sergeants to get the job done. You are relying on staff sergeants to get the job done.
Yeah, in most ways, I am a lance corporal inside that shop.
No,
I'm on the sewing machine doing what I pay them to do.
You know what you are? You are a goddamn fucking sergeant major who remembers the glory days of when he was on the sewing machine making fucking gear for fucking Navy SEALs, and you want to still live those glory days. You're still a sergeant major. The reality is, John Willis is I'm going to have to put this in inflation numbers. John Willis is probably a $1,500 an hour employee making $50 an hour gear. But that is because you still have the relationship of what you used to do when you were working in mom's garage, right? You still have the love for that. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just still have the love for that. Now, what I'm going with is, platoon sergeant is the last time that you have to rely on sergeants, corporals, and lance corporals. That's the last time. That is the lowest common denominator within the military. Doesn't matter whether you're in the Army, Navy, Air Force, or Marines. That is when you have to rely on those, and it is also when you have the most of them. So meaning when you think about a company gunny, he's got 4 platoon sergeants. That's what he has to rely on, is 4 fucking dudes. When you are a goddamn staff sergeant of Marines, or I don't know what they call them in the Air Force. I don't know what they call it, staff sergeant of soldiers in the Army.
Tax sergeant.
But when you are a staff sergeant, you are relying on 35 fucking dudes. That's the most people you will ever command. You can. I would always think that like a battalion commander would be the creme de the creme. Like if you could be a battalion commander, that would be fucking awesome. But you're still relying on 4 captains to get the mission done. A fucking battalion commander, if you are thinking about
but you don't want to go hang out with captains.
No, I don't.
You don't want to operate with them.
I know, but what I'm saying is,
you don't want to fucking be friends with them.
But that is the problem of command. The problem of command is you have to accept the next position.
So how do I fix that?
Well, you have to have, as a,
I don't think it's fixable here.
it is, but it requires you to step out of the Lance Corporal. It requires you to step out of the Lance Corporal nostalgia. Okay? And I will give you a me example, not a you example. So, the best time I ever had in the Marine Corps was as a staff sergeant of a rifle platoon. Best time. Now, none of the other staff NCOs, I didn't hang out with any of the other staff NCOs. I stayed within that platoon. So the platoon was the fucking thing that made it work. I didn't hang out with any of those staff NCOs. Now, after the fact, some of those staff NCOs have come out and said, you were the inspiration that made me move further. But the reality is, I shouldn't have been thinking rifle platoon. I should have been thinking company gunny. I should have been thinking company gunny. What I should have been doing is mentoring those staff sergeants, or mentoring within the staff sergeant community, so that I could move up to company gunny, so I could have the responsibility of those staff sergeants, instead of worrying about the rifle platoon. Because the rifle platoon is going to work no matter whether you're there or not.
But the gunny doesn't go shoot people.
No, I know, but that is an oxymoron of youth. Okay? The oxymoron of youth is, I always wanted to be a Marine, and I always wanted to be in the fight.
Yes.
But in order, again, I didn't want to run a business. In order to run a business, you need to be above all that.
Yeah, I don't want to run a business.
Yeah, I know. You're a motherfucker who still nostalgically is in the garage making fucking chest rigs for goddamn Navy SEALs.
No, I'm in the garage making new gear.
You are making new gear.
It's the new stuff, whether we sell any of the new shit or not. It's
you
the
are
new
making
shit
new gear, but
that makes all the other gear sell.
Here's
It's not about the seal anymore.
Here's the thing that's going to get me in trouble. Okay, you say that, but the reality is, you're making the gear that you've already made. There's not a goddamn bag, a widget, a fucking pouch that you have not already made. So when you say you're making new gear, you're not making anything new. Like you're if you take a pouch that you made 20 years ago, could think about that. Fucking 20 years
30
ago for
years
an
ago.
AK-47. And you're like, you know what'd be cool? If I could put a 308 mag in here. You're not making anything new.
I say it
you're
all the
just
time.
modifying the shit that you've already made.
Any pouch we make with a zipper, they're all the same pouch.
Everything
Any bag we make that has handles on it, it's
You've
all the
already
same
made.
thing.
you've already made it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there is nothing new to do.
You're
We just tweak what we already have. We bedazzle it differently.
your biggest problem, I would say that SOE's biggest problem is you still love being in the fight. You still love being in the fight. And when I say love being in the fight, there are different levels of fight. But you love being in the fight, right? So the Commandant of the Marine Corps has to fight for tanks. He has to fight for fucking artillery. He has to fight for ships. He has to fight for all kinds of crazy shit. But you still love being in the fight where you're shooting bullets. And you have to move above that.
I like to deal with the end user.
But again,
yes, I get it. I don't. When the fucking
in order for you to be a multi-billion-dollar company, you have to let that go. And it's one of those things that somebody said this to me a while ago. They're like, I rail against leadership all the time. I say,
that's what this whole podcast is.
yeah, but I rail against leadership within the Marine Corps.
Because most leadership is fucked up.
Because I rail against the leadership within the Marine Corps because I love the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps is the best organization that was ever created within the United States.
Well, maybe the Boy Scouts.
A close second, but still, the Marine Corps is the best because the Boy Scouts weren't created in a bar.
The boys, I'm with you. The Boy Scouts are still there, though. I don't think people realize that when we meet.
Do they call them? They're just called Scouts now.
Maybe when you meet guys that are doing like incredible shit.
You know. Here's the thing about
the
Boy
kid.
Scouts.
The kid. Let's use
You don't meet.
let's use Homestead Apprentice, for instance.
Okay.
We had 2 guys in there that were just like, holy shit, you're doing A, B, C, D, you're doing all these things. I'm like, you're a fucking Eagle Scout, aren't you? Both of them were. Like, you can just pick them out.
That's the thing. You don't meet. Like I've only known.
Yeah, we don't meet them. We fucking draw them.
But
to us.
what I'm saying is, in my lifetime, I've only known like, I think 3 Eagle Scouts. And at no point did I not go, holy shit, those guys are really Eagle Scouts. Like,
would it surprise you? Souders was an Eagle Scout.
No, the motherfucker was in a goddamn. Where was he? Where the fuck was Souders with his goddamn when he cut his foot open? He was in some
He was in
some place where you don't want to have your foot cut open.
Prague.
Prague, yeah, he's in Prague getting his foot surgery in Prague. It would not surprise me. No, you know what? Because he likes canvas so much, he is definitely an Eagle Scout.
As was his father, who still runs a Boy Scout troop or fucking something to do with
I
the Boy
would
Scouts.
not. I would not hesitate to say.
I
that
love you, Justin.
That Justin is a fucking perfect example of an Eagle Scout.
The kid in the garage that's doing the CNC stuff and had the 1,000 pounds of honey. Eagle Scout.
I have another, Kyle Kelly.
Yep.
Eagle Scout, who actually went on to be a Ranger, who was in part of the invasion of Panama. Like, great kid. I don't know where we're going with Eagle Scouts, though.
Well,
Boy Scouts. I mean,
so how many
because
kids?
The Marine Corps is way
think
better
about
than Eagle
this,
Scouts.
man. How many young men
guns.
join the Boy Scouts and then don't go to Boy Scouts? How many young men go to a dojo and then don't continue to go to the dojo, or start baseball and don't because their parents allow them to quit? There is no staying power any longer.
It's because there's a darkness. I'm going to get in trouble.
Just fucking do it.
There's a darkness to the Eagle Scouts.
Okay.
There's a not. I'm not saying Eagle Scouts in general, but scouting in general. There's a darkness to that particular genre.
What is it?
It's preparing people for the military.
Yes,
that's all.
Yes,
that's all
what
Scouts.
That's what Future Farm. That's what FFA is.
Yeah, that's all.
That's what all the ag stuff,
military.
all the stuff at the school. Joel Salatin.
All your officers should be Eagle Scouts.
Joel Salatin was on Joe Rogan talking about this, and he says, I was called to testify before Congress, and I was called also to something for the Department of Interior to speak. And he's like, I thought I was going to talk about sustainable agriculture or, what Joel Salatin talks about. And he said, they called, I was there, and I got to sit into this whole conversation about recruiting numbers are down. And it's because Future Farmers of America and all the ag courses in schools are being cut out. And it is thought that small town has less intelligence, less IQ, and they groom them into going into the military. And the numbers were down. And how do we get those numbers back up?
That is not why recruiting numbers are down.
Correct. This was probably 20 years ago.
Recruiting numbers are actually down within the United States because
we're not having babies.
No, we could fully staff. Here's the dirty secret. We could fully staff all 5. There's goddamn 5 departments now. We could fully staff all 5 departments of Department of Defense with viable recruits that would successfully accomplish the mission through Inner America. The problem is they have taken the ideals and the structure of what it means to be a military personnel, and they've woke it. They've made it woke.
Or even a man.
No, but they've taken all that's honor, courage, commitment doesn't mean shit when you are flying the gay pride flag above the American flag
For a fucking month.
The reality is. Here's the reality, guys.
There's 168
There's
days.
only one flag. There is only one flag, and that is the United States of America flag. And if you, as a fucking... Here's the thing. If you, as a gay, lesbian, LGBT, transgender, sissy, whatever the fuck, if you are not willing to fight and die underneath that American flag, then we don't need you.
Gay Pride has 168 days. Their holidays.
Fuck the gay pride
in the United States.
It's bullshit.
I'm with you.
It is bullshit.
Do you know any gay people
Yeah, I know. I
that
know
that you would consider to be friends?
I don't. Here's the crazy part is I like these guys, but I don't know if they would consider me their friends.
Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? But you would come to their aid. You would when they pull up, when you see them in public. Do you look at them and go, "Those are fags"?
No.
Right. Because they don't have to fucking fly the flag. They don't have to
Correct.
wear the shirt. They don't have the sticker on their car.
That is 100%.
Their license
correct.
plate doesn't say "I suck cocks."
I have 100%, and I've said this a lot of times on this podcast. I know the difference between right and wrong. It doesn't matter why the train cars are there. I will show up. If your gay pride flag is the reason why you're because Donald Trump is president and he's rounding up everybody that he considers undesirables,
which we don't believe is going to happen.
It's not going to happen. But what I'm saying is, me personally, I know the difference between right or wrong. I'll be there. I won't let them put you on the cars because I know the difference between right or wrong. If you want to create a religion out of your particular thing.
And that's what it is. It's a religion.
Yes.
It's their identity.
If you want to create a religion out of your particular thing, you're the problem. It's not anybody else. I can totally defend the freedoms and expressions of Americans, no matter what their lifestyle. I mean, Jesus, we talk about furries on here. Whatever your
Furries
lifestyle
is actually something that comes up all the time, every night. Because I have the fucking heads sitting there, those stupid heads we bought from Walmart to joust on the little bikes with. Every fucking night, somebody's on there like, "Are you a furry? Are those furry heads?" Like that's probably the number one comment. What is this? And what's with the furry heads?
I can agree with whatever your particular situation is, and I also understand that no government should be eradicating you based off of your personal beliefs. And so, again, me personally, I know that if the government was putting me on train cars, the government was coming around and grabbing me and putting me on train cars, I know they wouldn't be there.
Nope.
That they wouldn't be there to stop what is happening. But, again, your moral perspective of the world does not decide what I'm going to do.
Would you yell Wolverines?
Oh, I would fucking totally go Wolverines. I'd go, you know what? If you want to gay pride that, I would totally go Wolverines for the gay pride. I would totally go Wolverines for, I'll give you an example. I don't think that the U.S. government had the authority or power to intern Japanese during World War II. Would I go Wolverines for that? I don't know if I was a 1945 kid, I don't know if I would go Wolverines for that. But as a 2000 kid, I would go Wolverines for that. I don't think you have the right to intern people based off of an idea that is not real. It doesn't matter what your social economic structure is. We shouldn't be using the government to manipulate the situation where we're putting people in camps or we're fucking busing them off to wherever, or we're taking their property. Fuck that. Every single person in the United States, every single person, we have the technology and we have the wherewithal to evaluate every single person in the United States. If you are not evaluated as an individual, fuck it. I don't believe that the government should be able to do that. I don't believe the government should be able to classify skin color, race.
Well, we are. We're
ethnicity.
classified.
I know. I'm classified. I'm an enemy of the state, I'm sure, by now.
Mike Shimoda from Lincoln Park has a song. He had an album called Hybrid Theory, I think is what it was on. He had a couple other bands prior to Linkin Park, but he had a song about his grandfather and grandmother being rounded up and put in Menonon. And I think he actually passed away. I don't think he actually ever left there. I think he died before he got out of there. His grandfather.
It happens.
Yeah, I knew a guy that I went to high school with, fucking genius. I used to make fun of him. And then when I started my company, I bumped into him again. And we kind of became friends for a little bit. Super, super, like, just MacGyver kind of
When you were in the garage?
Yeah, when I was in the garage. Yeah.
Those are the best years, guys.
He made this rocket system that he called a Raptor. And it looked like some type of Laws rocket AT-4 type thing. And he was launching rocket motors, but he was actually putting payloads on these rocket motors. And he could fire these. He could fire these pretty
in possession right there.
Yeah, he could fire these pretty accurately. This was 30 years ago. I was probably 20-ish. And he would fire these things and be able to hit targets with them at a pretty good distance. But we were like in Portofino, right over there in Tirasana, and he's launching these things. And I remember like soccer moms losing their shit over it and stuff. Anyways, he was a classical pianist, like playing at like the opera halls and shit for like the symphony and shit. But he just loved military type stuff. And I remember hearing his story. I had met his mother once, and I think grandma was still somewhere in the picture. I think they were still kind of in the house or something. But I remember him talking, and his mother was full on like Japanese, like straight from Japan kind of Japanese. And I remember hearing that his grandmother had been actually in one of the camps when they rounded them all up. And he was half white because grandma was raped in one of those camps, is I think how the story went. Something kind of to that effect or something, that lineage. I wonder whatever happened to that dude. He'll probably reach out. Somebody's
reach out, dude. Reach out. We want to hear your story.
Somebody's going to reach out.
And really, really, this is what I would say. Really, really consider what actually happened within your family lineage. Just really consider it, because the reality of those situations, and again, I am far removed.
He didn't 100%. Say it ever as a victim or anything.
No, what I'm far removed 100% is there's probably a good chance that there was some consensual stuff going on there.
Possibly.
Because
for favors and such, possibly.
It is a different world, and the problem with
when I was in Lompoc, one of my roommates who was in there for weed, he's probably still in. The crazy shit is California has legalized
for weed.
Yeah,
Jesus.
He had a small aircraft full of weed. He was doing 30 years. There was a dude I was in who had raped and smashed the head in of a park ranger, attempted murder, and he did 13 years. He got out before I got out, while this other dude was still in.
Schedule 3.
So he was still in. The crazy shit is, in California, they've legalized all this weed, but these guys are still in custody. Yeah. He was fucking the warden's daughter. Like, he wasn't forcing that. Yeah. That wasn't coerced.
You're not forcing the warden's daughter.
Yeah.
You're not forcing.
Yeah.
She's showing up at, I'm assuming, Bible class?
I don't know. I got a buddy. I have some fucking still pretty close friends. I have more friends probably from prison than I have from not prison, like real friends.
Interesting comment. An interesting comment from Sean Connery, a legend, is a stint in prison is like a stint in military.
Mm-hmm.
I say that military, that you create these bonds within that instant.
Well, it's a known commodity.
Yeah. The thing about, and I'm sure it is the same with prison. I can't speak for federal penitentiary, even though I was in one, is with the military, you take a group of people from all different walks of life and you put them in this very
you put them in pressure. You put them in this pressure.
Very restrictive environment, and none of the none of the preconceived notions that you had prior to exist after the fact. So, like when people talk about, like gangs in the military or fucking white supremacists in the military, it's a lot of bullshit. It's really a scare tactic for liberal turds. It's really a scare tactic in the sense of, people get within the military, and once they get within that structure, the reality is you can't have those preconceived notions after the fact because you're relying on them to provide you with a level of support that you can't get from anybody else. Like you can't, when you think about your parents and how they supported you up until the point you were graduated from high school and you're out on your own, you're not going to get that support from anybody else. And when you join the military, whatever notion you had about race, color, creed, blah, 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 all that melts away because you have to rely on those individuals to keep you alive. And when you're talking about staying alive, fuck, it doesn't matter who the person is who comes to fucking save you. I will give you an example. When I joined the Marine Corps, I was young, dumb, and afraid. I wasn't afraid, but I was young and dumb. I knew how the military worked. I had spent fucking 4 years in ROTC, and before that, I read every single book you could possibly read about being in the military. And I grew up in a place where there was no racism. I grew up in Santee, California. There was literally no racism because there was no racism to be had.
Right. When you heard the N-word, it was always said to a white guy.
Yeah, it was
just never said about a black person.
Not even that. I mean, I grew up in a world where by the time I was 6, I was in uniform. And we literally would fucking march in downtown Santee to the sand pits. And Vietnam veterans would be like, hey, you want this helmet? Here's a helmet. Like it didn't exist. And then I joined the military. And when I joined the Marine Corps, there was a group called the Regulators. And the Regulators were an all-black organization that believed that...
within the Marine Corps.
Was within the Marine Corps, but it was, again, this was SOI, so they weren't real.
It's like a motorcycle club.
It was like they created this motorcycle club in order to
with no motorcycles.
In order to feel safe, I think. I feel like they were trying to feel safe because again, my experience was coming from Santee, California. Their experience was coming from all over the United States. And I met this guy named Stallworth. And I heard he made it to Master Sergeant, which is fucking awesome because he was a great fucking Marine. He was a black Marine. He was a disciple in Chicago. And he had the fucking tattoos. He had everything. He was a fucking disciple in Chicago, and he was one of those guys where they were like, hey, you can join the Marine Corps or you can go to jail. And that doesn't happen very often.
Nope.
It doesn't happen. It definitely doesn't happen anymore. And I had this band that I loved called Saxon. And I was listening to Saxon, and he heard it. We were in the barracks. This was at SOI. It was at SOI. He had this long black trench coat and shit, and he was all hardcore. And I was listening to Saxon, and he heard me playing the music, and he's like, oh, man, I love Saxon, blah, blah, blah. We're talking. No big deal. He's like, I love Saxon. It's a great band. Boom. And then they had the Regulators within SOI. Now, the Regulators was a black organization, and you had to be part of the Regulators in order to, I don't know, succeed, I guess. But it was so...
What do you mean organization? Like they kept a roster and they had a treasury and you had ID cards and shit? Or it's just like...
Outside of the fact that they regulated, meaning...
Like the Filipinos run the Navy?
Yeah, the Filipinos do run the Navy.
But like that?
They probably still run the Navy. Well, I'll give you an example. you had to be part of the, if you were black and you were with an SOI at that time period, you had to be part of the regulators. And the regulators did so much shit that when you, okay, so for example, LAR is not a basic organization. So if you go to a LAR school, you've already been in the Marine Corps for fucking 4 years. This was back in the 90s, guys, so I don't know what they do now. But you're already a Marine, right? You're going to LAR school to learn how to be in a fucking LAR and do all the
Light
cool
armor
shit.
reconnaissance, 3-wheel or 4-wheel per side.
You're trying to be a badass.
A little mini tank with a gun and
Little
tires.
mini tank and a gun. You want to work for Colonel Powers and be a badass. LAR was going to chow, and because they are considered already Marines, they have first come, first serve. The regulators got in a fight with LAR and actually broke a dude's collarbone. The Marine Corps didn't do anything about it. They were like, that's some shit. You guys go over here. You guys go over here. Let's let this happen. So it actually created a mythos for the regulators, this outside organization within the Marine Corps. Now, Stallworth, he didn't want no part of it. This guy was like, I did that side. I'm here to be a Marine. Me, I'm dumbass. I'm dumbass growing up in Santee. Everybody's equal. Everybody, blah, blah, blah. I don't even think about it. One morning we're forming for chow, and I get out there. And as I get out there and form up, all these dudes are getting in front of me. And I'm like, fuck you. If you want to be out here in front of me, get in front of me. Be here before me, motherfucker. And I say that to one kid, and I'm immediately surrounded. Like, I'm immediately surrounded by all these other individuals.
All black guys.
And it was very dark. I get immediately surrounded, and I'm like, fuck you. I'm here. Because, again, I'm thinking Marine Corps. I'm not thinking social economical aspects of wherever you came from. And this dude comes up and he's like, I'm going to fuck you up. These guys are going to fuck you up. Don't ever get in the way again. You get to the back of the line because that's where you belong. And again, I'm a stupid, naive kid. I just joined the Marine Corps. I'm 18 years old. I'm like, no, motherfucking, I'm not getting to the back of the line. Get here before me and you can be in front. But otherwise, this is where my spot is. And this dude was fucking huge. He's like just a big, imagine a fucking wrestler, right?
Like Smiley.
Yeah, definitely like Smiley. And he's like, I'm going to fuck you up, and then I'm going to let these guys fuck you up. Get to the back of the line. Well, Stallworth shows up. Comes up and he's like, no, you're not. You're not going to fuck these guys up. You're not going to do anything to him. Get in line. And the guy, the dude was like, you're either with us or you're against us, period. He's like, I am not with you. And that ended that situation. Everybody got in line. We went to chow. We did all that shit. And then another incident happened. We were at the armory. We're turning in weapons to get cleaned. And again, I'm stupid. I'm fucking, what was I? 19 years old? I was probably 19. And an argument happens. And I'm like, fuck you. I don't give a fuck. Regulators, whatever. We're all Marines. You either do your job or you're not going to do your job. And these guys are like, fuck you. We're going to fuck you up. And this dude comes over and he's like Terry Crews big, right? He's fucking big. He's like, I'm going to fuck you up. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably going to fuck me up, because this dude's huge. And I'm like, fuck you. I don't care. And then Stallworth, out of nowhere, this dude comes out of nowhere. And the beautiful thing about him is he was legit. Like, all these fuckers were faking. They were fronting. Stallworth was legit. He was a legit disciple. He was a legit fucking Marine. And he legit wanted to fucking change his life. And comes over and he's like, no, you're not going to do shit. Fuck you. And the guy was... He was definitely bigger than Stallworth. And he's like, we're we're going to go down to the creek bed. And this is right behind the SOE Armory. There's a creek right there. You guys can go check it out today. He's like, we're going to go down here in this fucking creek bed, and we're going to finish this. He's like, Star Wars was like, you ain't going to like what's going to happen. If we go down this creek bed, all this is over. And me, I'm my dumbass. I'm standing there like,
Yeah.
but all these guys are going to fuck me up. You know, I'm just standing there being dumb. And Star Wars is like, I'm going to fucking end this. And they go down the creek bed. And 2 minutes later, Star Wars comes out of the creek bed. And he's like, the regulators are over. Motherfuckers need to go back to your parent commands and be Marines. And all the little minions disappeared.
Who was allowing this to all happen where they all mobbed up like this and didn't have to report for duty and such?
The Marine Corps, at that particular time and structure, they were, I mean, when you think about a sergeant, and when you think about at that time,
Sounds like some Heartbreak Ridge shit. Those guys were just doing whatever they wanted to until fucking Highway showed up.
again, that is exactly how it was. It was definitely Heartbreak Ridge stuff in the 90s, or that was fucking 1988. It was damn, girl knows how old I am. That was definitely in 1988, and the Marine Corps kind of let that shit happen because again, the regulators actually attacked a fucking class of LAR students and fucking dislocated a guy's shoulder and was like, okay, you guys win. And let the regulators be regulators. So there's a point where the command kind of let things happen, and it was literally fucking Stallworth, this fucking Marine of Marines.
So how did he end this?
He fucked that kid up. Like, literally, the crazy thing is, Stallworth went down in the fucking creek bed and then came out by himself. He was like, it's over. Fuck off. You guys go back to your parents. Everybody went normal Marines. Like, everybody did the, you know, I can say people were cutting in front of me, but all that ended because of what Stallworth did, and never saw that fucking other Marine again. Like, disappeared.
Career ending.
It was career ending. Never saw him again. And I saw Stallworth. I saw him again probably 10 years later, and he was a fucking, was he a gunny? I hope he's a gunny. I hope he made it to Mass Sergeant. I hope he made it to fucking Master Gunnery Sergeant, because that's the Marine that you need. You need the Marine that is willing to you need the Marine, you know, in the Marine Corps, we are a band of brothers, and you need the Marine that is willing to fucking put everything on the line just for the Marine Corps. Even if it is against what the Marine Corps wants. Because that is a problem with what's going on right now, is that you have a command structure that wants to fucking be the Army, wants to be fucking woke.
Yeah, I saw one of the, what's that new ship they want? What's that thing called?
Littoral Combat Ship.
Holy shit, what a weird looking ship. All right, pause. All right, so
Jim Pelosi.
So
What?
back to how do we fix SOE then?
That is not where we were at. We were definitely not how to fix SOE.
Well, we were circling back to that.
How do we fix SOE? The first thing we need to do is we need to fucking, I know the post office is going to hate this. We need to move out of Camden, Tennessee. We need to move to Laredo, Texas. We need to be...
Laredo, Texas?
Stop. You wanted to fix it. We're going to fix it. We moved to Laredo, Texas, and we create a work structure where they can come across the border and work every day and then go home every night. That's Laredo, Texas. So night.
Isn't that the desert? That's like right on the border.
It is. Here's the thing. John's not going to be happy, but you said fix SOE. So we moved to Laredo, Texas. We bring all our workers from Mexico, because they have there's a program where you can bring your workforce across the border, working within the United States, and all that stuff is still very compliant.
Yeah, they've done all that.
Yeah.
So do you know that Amazon owns a bunch of jets? Do you know Amazon owns a bunch of jets?
That's Bezos.
And they fly all of their Amazon employees in for the week and then fly them home for the weekends?
Yeah. If you are a senior citizen and you want to work through the winter, you can park at at any of those hubs, and they will pay you to
Oh, yeah.
work there. So you
Do you
can
remember
fucking-
when we
yeah.
used to go to State Line where the big giant roller coaster was?
Yeah.
That whole fucking little trailer park town was all the employees
it
for
was all the
those
employees just for the
casino
season.
and shopping malls and
season.
shit.
So we go to Amarillo, Texas. Employees walk across the border every day. They make the fucking SOE product, and then at night they go home.
Okay, throw your chicken bones again and reread them.
No, there's no rereading.
That doesn't have Texas in it.
It's not Texas. It is Amarillo, Texas, so it is at the border. The key is the border. Americans are not willing to work for their earnings.
You know, I say that, and I always get somebody that's like, I feel attacked by that. I go, then tell me I'm wrong, though. Because if you're saying you feel attacked, you're not a business owner. When you talk to business owners,
I would say fuck off. In the text of what you're saying is, you're not willing to work for your fucking dollar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, example is,
well, guys always talk about nylon, right? They want because I'm probably the only dude who has run a nylon company who is willing to talk to people about starting a nylon company. And the real answer is high-end employees, they're already employed. So you have to have some capital to come into the industry. You have to, one of two things. You have to do more work yourself than anybody else is willing to do, or you have to hire good employees. You have to pay a rate higher than they are making.
I think the issue there is people tend to think that their value is worth more than it really is.
I say it every night. Yeah,
The value is worth more.
I know my worth. Well,
Again,
if somebody's not willing to consistently pay you that, then you're not worth that.
If you think you're a $20 an hour employee,
You're probably a 10.
if you think you're a $20 an hour employee, no, you're not a 10. You're a $30 an hour employee. If you think you're a $20 an hour employee, you're a 30. You have to make the company a value. And if you're not making the company a value, then you're not the fucking employee you think you are. Meaning, if you're not a $30 employee, you're definitely not a $20 employee. And if you're not a $20 employee, you're a fucking $10 employee. And I want everyone in the blogosphere or wherever we're at to think about this. You're a fucking $5.65 employee if you fucking make fries at McDonald's. Now, McDonald's doesn't pay that. They pay more.
Yeah, they're paying 20. That's why you have fucking $15 Happy Meals.
They pay more because of fucking legislation, not because of what your value is. You're not valuable.
That's why they're firing. That's why they're getting rid of employees. They're just automating it.
Not only are they automating it, but they're shutting it down.
Yeah.
And so the reality is, for you,
Did you see Hooters just fucking shut down 40 stores? They're in the hood.
God damn it, how the fucking Hooters shut down 40 stores? Nobody was buying chicken wings. Nobody. There was nobody that's going in Hooters and like, you know what would be great? Some fucking chicken wings. No, but there's not a single fucking person that was like, let's go to Hooters and get chicken wings. So if Hooters has to shut down stores, there's no value, bro. There's no value in what you're offering.
Well, that's because all their girls they have fat girls now. They don't have fucking.
Well, again,
they don't have like it. The girls working at Hooters used to look like Sports Illustrated.
The reality is,
now the girls working at Hooters look like Sports Illustrated.
the reality is, if you went to Hooters to buy fucking chicken wings,
that's what I went for.
You didn't give a fuck about the chicken wings. Nobody went to Hooters for chicken wings.
I did.
Everybody, no, John, you didn't. No, scratch that. Reverse it. John probably went to fucking Hooters for the chicken wings. Nobody goes to Hooters for chicken wings. Everybody goes to Hooters for girls. And if you are willing to degrade the substance of what that is, then your fucking chicken wings ain't going to make it, because you can get chicken wings. I can go down the gas station right next door. This gas station right fucking next door makes chicken wings. Why would I go there and get chicken wings again? Why? What purpose would I have to go to this gas station and get fucking chicken wings? Maybe they're good. They might be the best. Here's the thing. This is the thing that we've lost in America as just a corporation. We've lost in America is those very well might be the best chicken wings in all of America. Like, the best chicken wings. You might go in there and be like, holy shit, these are the best chicken wings I've ever had in my life. But you throw tits on top of those chicken wings, you don't have to make good chicken wings.
Right.
It's just, you don't have to make good chicken wings, because it's the women that make the women. When you think of, when you think of that franchise in itself, that franchise only exists because of the women who were involved in making those not even involved in make chicken wings. Those women that were there.
Yeah, they closed a bunch of that. They closed Red Lobster. They're closing all kinds of shit down.
Well, I mean, there are certain things that have to be destroyed. Always in history, we destroy things. But the question is, what do we hold valuable? What do we hold valuable? What is it, the thing is it that we hold valuable? John Willis holds things that are John Willis has values that are different than mine. The question always becomes, what is that value? And again, the chicken wings and titties were more important than how good the chicken wings tasted.
Sure.
That's why and that's the problem.
Well, a dude could he could go there and get away with taking, the baseball team there or whatever, and expose those kids to the first, look at a pair of titties.
The issue is,
and then they had sports, fucking shows on, and he could go there and get beer, and it was a going concern. It made a lot of money.
The issue
for a surprisingly long amount of time. But now guys, to see titties, they don't have to go look at some titties in a shirt, because every kid has fucking Snatch Chat or fucking whatever on his phone. Like, you want to see, you don't have to go and sneak the cardboard off to see some titties in a magazine anymore.
This is what I'm going to say.
You can just see them on the internet.
This is what I'm going to say. Hooters as a base model. So Hooters as a base model. Forget all the bullshit that comes with it. Hooters as a base model. It is a successful organization because of how they present what they present. But when you allow wokeism to creep into what you're doing, you destroy the base model. You destroy the reason why you are making so much money. You're like, hey, I'm making $1 billion showing titties. Let's not show titties.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like deja vu. It used to be millions of beautiful girls and 3 ugly ones.
Yeah.
Now it's all our girls are ugly.
Brando,
anybody can be a stripper.
Is there a deja vu that says?
No, there's a place called the Mouse's Ear close to us, and there was always one pregnant lady.
Yeah,
hey,
that's the place over here. There was a chick that had a C-section, a current C-section.
I went
one-legged stripper, fucking retarded stripper.
We had a place here, best cheeseburgers on the planet. Like the cheeseburgers.
Now it's a karaoke bar.
The cheeseburgers was off the chart, but there was a girl with a limp. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, now it's a karaoke bar.
At comedy club.
Yeah. He goes in there. He's like, you should come down. I'm like, isn't everybody chain smoking in there? There's no fucking way I'm going in there.
Do they smoke in there?
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible. No smoking.
Yeah.
That's like 1980s. What else?
You tell me.
Again, we got on the stripper tail. And strippers are, they're wonderful women. They're just misunderstood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where are we at?
Bridget the Midget was arrested.
I sent that to you.
What the fuck? Bridget arrested? What for?
She stabbed her dude in the leg.
Yeah.
With a butter knife.
He deserved it. If you got stabbed in the leg with a butter knife, you deserved it.
Well, that's as high as she could get.
But again, a butter knife?
Is she married to a real dude? Like a normal human?
I think so, yeah.
But I will say, if you got stabbed in the leg with a butter knife, you deserve that.
No, it was her boyfriend, Jesse James.
The Jesse James?
No, there's no way it is the Jesse James.
Isn't Jesse? Who's Jesse James? Isn't he a motorcycle guy or something?
Yeah, but it's not him. It's not. There's no way. that the Jesse James of motorcycle fame is also Bridget the Midgets.
Yeah, she was famous. She was a porn star and shit.
Again, no way that they are interconnected.
I built this thing from the bottom, they tore it down, I rebuilt it. I give myself a task, you can bet your ass I fulfill it. Yeah, man, I'm talking about Willis, one of the real